Today, Joe Biden is that guy. But this should never happen to the president of the United States, especially a Democrat president. Friends pretty much come with the job. You have your whole party that's supposed to be with you, and you have the mainstream media that sits at your table. You have leaders of other countries who have meetings with you and say nice things about you and serve you dinner. And then you have donors and CEOs who are trying to schmooze you for favors. You even have your family, who's supposed to stick by you no matter what. But Joe Biden's the first president that I've ever seen who everyone has given up on. It's one thing for your wife to tell you you're a big disappointment. It's another thing for your wife to tell all of your friends you're a big disappointment. Jill Biden told a group of Democrat donors that Joe hasn't been able to get anything done because, things just keep popping up that he hasn't planned for. Quote, "The president had so many hopes and plans for things he wanted to do, but every time he turned around, he had to address the problems of the moment. He's just had so many things thrown his way. Who would have ever thought about what happened with the Supreme Court overturning Roe v. Wade? Well, maybe we saw it coming, but still, we didn't believe it." After calling Hispanics tacos, Jill called her husband a vegetable. You think after being vice president, Joe Biden would understand the kind of things that get thrown at the president. Even Barack Obama didn't complain about having to deal with ISIS in a recession. Well, he only complained about Fox. After the media sold us on Joe Biden being up to the job, now they're saying the president's a sellout.
The fist bump, and the reaction has been swift because this is a man who ordered the brutal murder of a journalist. Why is he fist bumping a murderer?
I don't think that Biden gets a pass just because he's a Democrat, just because that he's a Democratic president. I think that it's bad no matter how you look at it. And we shouldn't be here saying, well, Trump did it, so it's okay that Biden did it. It's just not okay.
Isn't it funny how the press pushed Biden to stop producing oil in America, and then they get mad at him begging the Saudis to produce more oil? Who does the media want him to beg for oil from? Putin? And Joe Biden's so-called allies in the Democratic Party said Joe Biden should have never even visited a country that killed a journalist.
You have a leader of that country who was involved in the murder of a Washington Post journalist. I don't think that type of government should be rewarded with a visit by the President of the United States.
Going from calling MPS a pariah to fist-pumping him was really disappointing. This whole trip sends the wrong message to human rights defenders and to the values that we say we have in upholding human rights.
Didn't Bernie Sanders honeymoon in Russia and cozy up to Castro in Cuba? How are those countries' human rights records? And Omar can't get enough of the Palestinians who strap explosives to children. Spare us the lectures on human rights. This has all made the president a little prickly.
Do you regret the fist pump, Mr. President? Why don't you guys talk about something that matters? I'm happy to ask a question that matters.
Here's a question that matters. Did you even cut a deal with the Saudis for more oil? Because today the price of oil went up more than $5 a barrel. And the Saudis are treating Biden like an economic illiterate, releasing this statement while the president was still on the ground in the Mideast. Quote, "Adopting unrealistic policies to reduce emissions by excluding main sources of energy will lead in coming years to unprecedented inflation and an increase in energy prices and rising unemployment and a worsening of serious social and security problems." And the kingdom added that they don't really have much more spare capacity to raise production anyway, so Biden's trip isn't going to deliver us anything. Gas prices are one of the big reasons the country disapproves of the president, and he just broke another record. Only 30% of the country approves how he's handling the economy. And the media knows that's a political disaster. So the media is ranking Joe Biden's primary opponents right in front of his face. The Washington Post ranked their top 10 favorite Biden replacements. Their list includes some failed 2020 candidates like Bernie, Warren, Mayor Pete, and Kamala, as well as AOC, some guy named Roy Cooper, and Gavin Newsom. It's a sad list. But somehow they all seem better than Biden right now. And all these guys love their name is getting out there. None of them are doing anything to tamp down the whisper campaign. Just a bunch of disloyal traitors. Joe doesn't even have friends in his own party. The biggest backstabber has to be Newsom. While Biden was off in Saudi Arabia, Newsom was sneaking through the back door of the White House and measuring the drapes. After he brought a bag of Taco Bell to Jill, I mean, got to admit, the guy's got a sense of humor. He jumped in front of the cameras and said Joe Biden isn't ferocious enough to be the president. And if he were the president, he'd put the Democratic Party back on offense. Watch.
Democrats need the Democratic Party, not the president, not a speaker, not an elected office holder. The party, the infrastructure, I think has to organize with more ferocity of focus, more determination to set the agenda, set the course, and put the other party on the defense.
And when Biden got back from overseas and after he had the White House cleaning service remove the smell of Newsom's cologne from the Oval Office, he found out his global warming and tax hike agenda got shut down by his own party. So Joe Biden's Democratic Party is in a mutiny. Democrats in the media are shopping around for his replacement. Foreign leaders are disrespecting him, and even his own wife is talking about his presidency in the past tense. They say if you want a friend in Washington, get a dog. Well, Biden already tried that, but it bit a Secret Service agent, and he had to get rid of it.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.